India and the United Arab Emirates have engaged in trading relations with each other for centuries. Now a new era has dawned with Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, visiting India. The Economic Times India-UAE Strategic Conclave 2017, co-powered by Standard Chartered Bank and Monster.com, saw eminent personalities throw up thought-provoking insights around a number of sectors pivotal in strengthening India-UAE strategic ties across multiple trade sectors, and was held under the patronage and in the presence of His Excellency Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak Al Nahyan, Cabinet Member and Minister of Culture and Knowledge Development of the UAE.
India-UAE strategic conclave is filled with hope, and I am honored to be among you who will help India and the United Arab Emirates realize those hopes. The Economic Times deserves our profound gratitude. Thank you all for your vision and hard work. The scene was set for your current actions early this year when Narendra Modi, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, and the Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, India's Chief Republic Day guest as well, signed memoranda of understanding pertaining to a wide range of bilateral economic activities. Prime Minister Modi declared, and I quote, "We have shaped an ambitious roadmap of engagement to make our comprehensive strategic partnership purposeful and action-oriented." I am delighted to be here with you this morning. My best wishes to all of you for a stimulating, creative, challenging, and productive day. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
Now I would like to request the chief guest to unveil the coffee table book, The Economic Times Best Asian Healthcare Brands. After the successful launch of the Economic Times Best Asian Healthcare Brands in India last year, we are proud to acknowledge leading healthcare brands from Asia who across the healthcare value chain have shown exemplary brand excellence.
Your Highness Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak Al Nahyan, Your Excellency Mr. Haftur, the team from Economic Times, the many distinguished delegates here. In the last 6 or 7 months, I've discovered that there's a pleasure to speak after His Highness Sheikh Nahyan, but it's also a bit of a challenge because almost everything useful has already been spoken. So I'm kind of left struggling to see where I can give some additional inputs when most of the important stuff has been covered. Which also means that we have the privilege of having Sheikh Nahyan as a true ambassador for both UAE and India. Sheikh Nahyan, thank you for all that you do. The rulers of the Malabar coast had established right from the 11th century onwards a reputation for welcoming free trade, for enabling the merchants from the Gulf to come to the Malabar coast with the monsoon winds, buy the spices and other materials that they needed, spend a few months till the monsoon winds change their directions, and then head back to the Gulf. What we want to see is much more business and investor interest from UAE into India, and I hope that events like these would certainly take that forward. Thank you very much all for being here, and thank you once again, Your Highness, for your encouraging words.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Navdeep Suri. Now, if I can please kindly call upon Mr. Deepak Lamba, His Excellency Navdeep Suri, His Excellency Abdullah Al Darmaki, and His Excellency Suhail Mahmood Al Ansari to join us on stage to felicitate the brands for the coffee table book. the Economic Times Best Asian Healthcare Brands.
A panel of eminent speakers deliberated on the ways in which globalization can be reimagined, leading to an understanding of the new ways India and the UAE can co-function in a fast-changing world.
Mr. Gurnani, I'll ask you first. I mean, I think there's no denying that relations between, India and UAE at an all-time high. Where are the areas for collaboration, you think, for us to be able to achieve that?
My personal opinion is that many of us now at least have the heads of the state, both in UAE and in India. They have a great friendship. Both of them are ambitious and assertive. And that ambition, if it can be translated into some goals. Now, just to set an example, why Silicon Valley? Why not Dubai? Now, the point here is that can the two countries, or UAE and India, collaborate instead of us trying to do it all alone? Because it is very clear, the investments in Dubai Health City, we have the Vice Chairman of Mubadala, they are investing a lot in the health ecosystem. They brought in Cleveland to Abu Dhabi. There is clearly a desire that both the countries can do a lot more.
Mr. Jashanmal, let me ask you, you've successfully run an enterprise here in the UAE for about 100 years. What's the experience been like? And, you have a good ringside view of how things have evolved.
The experience here or the experience in
India?
The experience in India has been challenging. We decided 20 years ago to look at opportunities. India was growing. The consumer markets were evolving, middle class was growing, and money was starting to filter into the economy. There was a growing demand for consumer products, especially the kind of products that we deal in, which are finished goods, mid-priced goods, luxury goods. we took the step to open operations in India. It was extremely challenging, even for us as Indians, and the decision we took was to hire local people from the ground who knew how to do business in India, and that actually facilitated our company in gaining access to the markets. It has been a learning curve. It was quite difficult in the initial years, but once we got a sufficient number of products on hand and people in place and distribution, national distribution, we opened five offices and distribution centers throughout the country, in Calcutta, in the south, in Delhi, and of course our headquarters in Mumbai. Recently, it's been fantastic. I would say in the last 5 years, there's been a tremendous growth in our business in India, fueled by, of course, the new directions of the government of India, led by Honorable Modi. It has been good for business. We have been able to add a number of new product lines, been able to have much more access to the markets. So, what can I say? Learning experience from the Gulf teaches us that relationships with people, relationships with customers, relationships with governments are very, very important.
Mr. Dharmaki, let's talk about, what your fund specializes in, which is basically financing the needs for small and medium enterprises. Have you done any business with India? Have you perhaps looked at exploring opportunities for financing the needs of SMEs in India?
Well, we all know that small businesses are the backbone of any economy. I'm sure in India it is a driving force. For us in the Gulf, it's still a very young and learning experience for locals to become entrepreneurs. I think in the last 4 decades, since the country has been established, people are more inclined to going to public sector jobs. What we try to do is provide them with an opportunity to look at their ambitions in setting up small businesses that then in reality can grow and allow for them to become self-sustainable and employed by these businesses. With India, we haven't achieved much in terms of penetrating that market for small businesses. I think the lack of information that is made available to local businesses on how to access a market like India isn't that much out there. So that's something that we need to work together with institutions that are here today and see how that we can open that channel.
And Mr. Kanoria, how can I not ask you? You just cruise down the roads and you know that, they've done a phenomenal job when it comes to infrastructure. India, of course, trying to get there. Lessons to be learned?
Now in the last 2 to 3 years, the way this government has been working out to address the challenges in those, correcting the structural issues which are there in that sector, is now started to show the improvements and gradual correction. And this is where I think the opportunity for strengthening the relationship between India and UAE is a lot more, because UAE is also looking for investing capital for long-term steady returns. Today, that opportunity is coming, especially when early this year, both the countries have signed this investment of almost $75 billion in India and can get good, reasonable long-term returns.
Attendees were given insights into the success secrets of Dabur, one of the Indian brands at the vanguard of the FMCG industry, helping them understand critical success factors.
We are perhaps the world's largest Ayurvedic and alternative science company, alternative medicine company, leaders in Ayurveda and natural healthcare with strong footprint in India and increasing presence abroad. Our origins came out of the Middle East, and they came out of first tailing the diaspora, which was significant, of course, in the Middle East. And they obviously wanted to use the products which they got back home in terms of personal care and grooming. And then the Arabic community started liking those products, and then we began to customize those products for the local communities, and they began to get a lot of popularity here. So a lot of people ask me that your Middle Eastern business must be coming largely from the expatriates. The answer is no. 90% of our business comes from the local population. And that's very encouraging. In fact, one of our largest markets is Egypt. and there are very few Indians, as we all know, in Egypt. So we have been able to customize our products and deliver value and appropriate offerings to the local population. The key markets here are Saudi Arabia, UAE. Saudi Arabia is one of our largest markets. UAE is a market which is very significant despite the comparatively small size of population. Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa are our key markets, with Egypt being by far the dominant. In Europe, we have established a strong presence in Turkey, which is, in a sense, a little bit of extension of the Middle East. So again, the business strategy is that we will have brands positioned on the herbal and natural platform, and as I mentioned earlier, fine-tune the portfolio to cater to local customers, continue strong investments in brands, and the digital platform, whether it's social media or e-com, et cetera, will be an increasingly strong lever of growth, and local supply chain management, which is integral to our overseas strategy. Thank you.
Asia's burgeoning healthcare and nutrition needs were brought to the fore by Anshu Buddharaja, who charted a roadmap that ensured holistic nutrition for all.
I'm very fond of this city, and I must confess that, because whenever you come to the city, you see a lot of change. And I feel the only thing constant about Dubai is change. And honestly, it's all about how the city has imbibed, I think, technology, how the city has imbibed talent. It's one thing to acquire talent, but it's other to retain talent. But the great way the city has taken up talent, as in that's amazing. Again, it's great to be here. And what best place than Dubai to talk about healthcare, and a lot of the prominent and eminent speakers have already spoken a lot about that. I'm just going to touch about, in the next 10 minutes, smart healthcare approach. And what do I mean by that? Let me just kind of show you a slide. And this is just a study which was done UN on the Sustainable Healthcare Index. And you see UAE at a very good 84, but we see India at 143. And you think about it, as in we have been in India going through 8 to 9% of growth rates for the last couple of decades. And still, we are at 143. Just a small healthcare check is that if you were to just enhance the life capital of a particular person at birth, the life expectancy by 10%, it could lead to an economic growth of 0.5%. And that's how healthcare really impacts economic prosperity in any country. We are a brand of about $15 billion US, and we have pioneered in nutrition through our brand Nutrilite. As you can see, it's the #1 brand globally for vitamins, minerals, and dietary supplements. And what we offer to the consumer is world-class products, which we organically grow, harvest, and process. But finally, as I conclude, I would like to say it's not about the numbers. It is obviously not about the top line. It's the impact which the brand has really had in the lives of millions of consumers in working towards not the curative side, but caring side. Thank you so very much.
Innovation has played a key role in advancing the frontiers of healthcare, and our next speaker revealed the many advances that have helped reshape the medical landscape.
Today, the subject given to me is the technology. Instead of talking technology, I'm a pharmacist basically. I'm not IT man. You have got so many IT people here. But today morning, what happened, I was coming, I had a friend, Niranjan Shetty from India. He said, Shetty uncle, there is one product known as Intelligence Excellence. I said, what is that? A patient comes and walks inside the hospital. While getting down only, we come to know what's the record, who is coming, what's his patient record, what the sickness he had. And what is better than that? I always tell in my hospital, the receptionist in the reception, she gives 50% of the relief for the patient. So my request to my receptionist is to receive the patients happily, smilingly, and have a sort of sense of love and towards it. So that's where the treatment comes, 50% of the treatment is done. So that's why I tell you, my concept of the healthcare is more than the initiative of IT. Look at the pulse, not at the purse.
In the global era, foreign investment can be pivotal to achieving competitiveness. Our next set of speakers elucidated their success stories and the underlying investment promotion strategies driving it.
I'd like to understand from your perspective, What is the significance of this strategic partnership? What would you like to see each country do? And what are the main challenges?
Your question is very strategic. It requires a lengthy answer. But in a summary, if you talk about India and UAE today, is the best time of its last 50 years. Why? Because if you see the leadership in both countries are committed to build a sustainable, strong, strategic relationship between the two countries. Second, because of the nature of the globalization and the free trade in natures has necessitated the need between nations to cooperate. We have seen few movements in the global politics. One that suggested the BRICS. Second is the result of the US election, which has resulted in a new policy advocacy. Protectionism is in the way coming. So I believe, globally speaking, I think the relationship and the numbers you rightly mentioned, moving from 50 billion to 100 by 21, this requires a strong relationship, very strategic. Today, the relationship between the countries are economic in nature. They are not politically motivated.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. When we think about how we grow this partnership, I think one of the main pillars of any partnership is small and medium enterprises and how some investors might locate in other countries and do business, vice versa. From your perspective, from the DMCC's perspective, what role do free zones and investment promotion agencies have in strengthening this bilateral relationship?
Thanks for that question. Well, I think, the bilateral relationships have enhanced over the last couple of years, especially in terms of documenting the roadmap that you want to see ahead in terms of investments, engagement from the leadership across both countries. But then if you take a step back about 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, and I think there was a very careful thought around, structuring how we could enhance trade between the two countries, primarily because, from a UAE perspective, India is one of the largest trading partners. So I think creation of these very structured special economic zones or free zones, each with a purpose, I think fitted in very well. And today, much of the success which DMCC enjoys as a commodity-focused ecosystem is because of India. I mean, out of the 14,000 companies that we have, over 2,000 are from India, and we welcome one company from India every day. Some of the largest corporate houses of India have their presence here.
Thank you. Please allow me to thank my fellow panelists for this engaging conversation, and thank you all for attending. Going a bit deeper into our theme here, when we look at India from an economic perspective, is growth rates sustainable? We've seen around 7%, 6.5, sometimes even as high as 8. Do you think that that is something that's sustainable for the next 5 to 10 years?
I guess it's no surprise that we're optimistic. I represent an organization that is optimistic about India. It's also optimistic, obviously, about the UAE. Emirates NBD recently invested successfully in India. So these issues can be resolved successfully, and we've opened a branch in Mumbai very recently. And we are optimistic about growth in both countries. India has seen growth rates, as you say, around 7% in recent years. This year, that situation is getting complicated by reforms, and we've had reforms, the demonetization at the start of the year and the GST, introduction of GST, which has contributed to, I'd say, an interruption in that sort of stellar pace of growth. First quarter growth was around 6.1%, second quarter 5.7%. So we've had a slowing down in activity, but I think that still represents a pretty solid pace of growth globally and in emerging market world at the moment.
Mr. Jyoti, Tim mentioned Prime Minister Modi's reforms from your perspective, given that you are helping a lot of UAE companies and foreign investors do business in India, what have those reforms really done in terms of investor confidence in that market? And do you think that it's easier for foreign investors to do business in India today?
As far as the reform measures goes, I think so I would like to pinpoint only 5 areas, I think so, that are major contributors in terms of the way that the FDI investor can look at, the way that the foreign investors that they can come and look at India. 5 major pointers to the growth story. First, it is the demonetization that has happened. It has brought back a lot of idle money back into the economic system. With that economic system, we will see that how the stock market has reacted in this last 2 to 3 months. Even if the 2 to 3% of that money goes back into the stock market, which was lying idle in the almirahs of the people, in case if 2 to 3% of that money has been flown back into the stock market, you can see the impact that the Indian household saving can create into that. So that's an impact of demonetization which we talk about. Second, sir, it is the GST impact. With this now GST impact in terms of the entire lending business, entire business community that we do business, it has gone for a sea change business. There was a lot of trust deficit between the banker and the lender right now, that you cannot even trust the financial statements. Now with the GST coming in, I think so that trust deficit will go. There will be a lot of formal sources of money that will be available for the people to come in. So that GST, I think, is a huge, huge impact for the economy that is going to come up. Third thing, which is such an important aspect, which is a competition among the states itself. That's what His Excellency was also saying, that states are trying to compete and vie with each other. That is what that they should come and invest into my state. That is there. This is the third major impact that I can see that. Fourth major impact, sir, it is the government resolve to weed out corruption. I think so with every person that you can meet in India, with everything that we have been doing about that the corruption need to be weeded out. I think so that's a great initiative. Fifth, and I think so fifth, which is such an important aspect in terms from the economist and from the other, it is the crude prices. Crude prices, sir, it is stable or it is below manageable level. So I think so given these 5 important considerations, these are the 5 important scenario building cases, I think so India is one of the most sought after and most hot destination to invest in, and this would give enough confidence to any of the FDI investors, and you can see the amount of investment which is coming up in terms of the sectors, in terms of every sector, whatever that you talk about.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. And the 70 members of this conclave who came from India, welcome to the UAE and to Dubai. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with such a distinguished gathering and to participate in UAE-India strategic conclave. And I would also like to extend my sincere appreciation to the Economic Times for organizing this interactive platform, which aims to explore bilateral opportunities and introduce new fields of cooperation between businesses in both friendly countries. I'm sure the inaugurated strategic partnership will build upon a concrete economic base to unlock the potential of enhanced cooperation and materialize all possible synergies in existing and new sectors. In this regard, it is vital to highlight the interconnectivity of the UAE and the Indian economies, evidenced by the $35.8 billion non-oil trade and $6.9 billion oil trade in 2016. With this volume of bilateral trade, India sits at the second top market for the UAE's oil and non-oil exports. While the UAE represents the second biggest market for Indian goods worldwide, add to that, UAE is also the country which has the largest non-resident community in the world, Indian community in the world. I believe that more investment flows between the UAE and India would be promoted, and that the scope of investments should be widened to address new rewarding sectors and include investments in third friendly countries as well. Lastly, I would like to emphasize that by being more inclined and determined to select yielding opportunities, The private sector is usually the most capable of exploring new fields of cooperation and capitalizing on rewarding potentials, and that's why we are here today. I thank you all and wish you a constructive day ahead of you. Thank you.
His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Sharaf, other dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. To introduce myself, I am chairman of Marico Limited. We make branded consumer goods, and we also have skin clinics. So in this part of the region, we sell our Parachute brand, which is coconut oil and other extensions of coconut oil. We also have our chain of skin clinics, Kaya Skin Clinics. So overall in this region, our business is not that large. We must be doing about, I think about $60 million. But in India, other parts of the world, I think our size is about $1 billion in terms of turnover. I'm out and out an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I believe that entrepreneurs add a lot of value to all the stakeholders. It is just not making money. Some people think that entrepreneurs have a selfish motive of just making money. But most entrepreneurs I have interacted with, they have a larger purpose. They want to do something for all the stakeholders, whether it is shareholders, whether it is their own employees, whether it is the society, or their customers, or their associates. So I think entrepreneurs play a very, very important role in creating an all-round wealth for all the stakeholders. And that's why I'm very happy that in a country like India, we see a lot of interest for youngsters to get into new businesses. So I think it's very important that society plays an important role, parents, friends, relatives, to encourage entrepreneurship. I think the government is also taking a lot of initiatives in driving newer entrepreneurs and trying to create an ecosystem where entrepreneurs will thrive over a period of time. So I think these are some of my thoughts on talent, entrepreneurship, and creating a right to win. So thank you very much and wish you all the best.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. His Excellency Muhammad Sharaf, Mr. Shukla, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be today here with you, addressing you with our business experience in India. My name is Sharafuddin Sharaf, as you have seen. I am ex-government employee. I have retired since 2004 from the UAE government. I used to work as a policeman. So I joined the business after retirement. In my career as a policeman, I have experienced a lot of changes in Dubai from 1970 until 2004, and we have seen a big growth in different sectors of the communities, be it business, be it government services. So thank you very much to be here today, all of you, and seeing the growth of the UAE. And please, if you need to exchange any ideas of the businesses together here while I'm here, you are welcome. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'd also like to add my congratulations to the distinguished business leaders for being exemplary ambassadors of cooperation and trade between the two countries. As we heard earlier, the two nations enjoy a remarkable relationship. India is the largest trading partner for the UAE, while the UAE is India's third largest trading partner. The UAE is home to 2.6 million Indians, forming the largest expatriate group in the region. And I'm also told that airline capacity runs to 130,000 seats per week, and it's always full. The UAE is the commercial gateway for global trade and investment between Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. And these also form a key part of Standard Chartered's network. And finally, I'd like to thank the Economic Times, the organizers, our very distinguished guests, and each one of you for joining us tonight. Thank you very much indeed.
cultural ambassadors from the UAE and India showcased the strength of centuries-old cultural ties between the two countries, with Kabir Khan leaving the audience wrapped in the course of candid conversations.
Hi Kabir, it's such a pleasure to speak to a movie maker who strikes this fine balance between finding rich content and good storytelling. His movies are politically charged, but they have an interesting mix of blend of entertainment, music, songs, so there's a bit of everything in his movies. And you're also a movie maker who's traveled to over 60 countries. How does the UAE compare in terms of, how does it lure you as a filmmaker to film here?
UAE for filming, I must say, is very film friendly. I think over the years they've built up a fantastic infrastructure for films in terms of equipment, technology, trained manpower. So even though I have not as yet filmed one of my main features in UAE, I have come and shot several ads and documentaries here. I just recently shot a short film, you can call it an ad, for Dubai Tourism with Shah Rukh Khan here. And I must say it was a very good experience because, as I said, there's a large pool of trained technical personnel here and cutting-edge film technology available. And the various authorities really go out of the way to make things easy for you to shoot. So it's a very good destination to shoot in. And a lot of films are being shot here.
And you have been in this industry for more than 10 years. You complete 11 years. What are the changes that you have seen in the way movies are made? And are audiences a lot more smarter?
That's a big question. Yeah, I have seen a lot of change in these 10 years. See, I was doing documentaries before this. For years after film school, I started doing documentaries. I was doing some films for Discovery Channel, for National Geographic, and various other channels internationally. The reason why I shifted from documentaries to feature is because I felt that in India, India lacked a platform for documentaries. Somehow we were not being able to reach out. No channels were really supporting documentaries. And if they were, then they were very niche. We were reaching out to a very niche audience. And somewhere in that process, I realized that in India, the most powerful medium is cinema, is the silver screen. And I said, if you have to narrate stories in India, then they should be on the large screen. And that's why I shifted actually with the story of what actually happened with me in Afghanistan, what the experiences that I went through in Afghanistan as a documentary filmmaker, I penned them down and made them into my first script called Kabul Express. But the gradual transformation in the 10 years that I've been seeing, and it's a good change, is definitely content is becoming more and more powerful. Yes, our stars do rule. It is still a star-driven industry. Our audiences also react, very positively towards our stars. But at the same time, we are seeing that good stories are always doing well, even if they're not supported by stars.
And here is to good stories coming out from you, Kabir.
Thank you so
much. It was such a wonderful session speaking to you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you look at UAE, they have been investing a lot as per their Vision 2021 and Expo 2020, Smart City, Digital Dubai. So when you look at all these initiatives, you see that there is a big foray into technology, into science, into research, not only on the infrastructure side, but also on healthcare and medical side, right? So, and there is a big foray on the complete technology on the digital side. And this is where we have talent in India, right, who have been exposed to a lot of such, kind of services, either to our close collaboration with the western part of the world, and similarly these talents are in demand in the UAE, depending upon the direction that the government is giving, preparing themselves for 5 years and 10 years to come.
Standard Chartered is driving the focus on driving trade, investment and wealth creation across Asia, Middle East, Africa. As we are meeting at the India-UAE conclave, let me highlight to you the rich history what Standard Chartered has with India and UAE. Standard Chartered has been present for more than 150 years in India and now with 60 years in UAE. And that's the depth of partnership the bank has both with India and UAE. And that expertise will lead to supporting our clients which do cross-border. Apart from providing typical working capital financing for expansion, we also support companies when they actually go global by way of acquisitions or by way of providing financing.
Definitely people see India as a difficult country to start with, where they look at the starting problems as a very big problem, whereas we Indians do not feel that way. So cementing relations is whatever their apprehensions are, we address that, and whatever weaknesses are, they bring in their strengths. So I see now it is the time that these relationships are taken to the next level, now that we have an MOU in place. And I'm seeing that in India generally, the demand comes first and then the supply comes. And in India, we have accepted this as a norm.
What we're talking about here, I think, is two wonderful, great economies that have such great ambition, such great talent pools, and such great industries that I think there's so much synergy that can be harnessed moving forward. Historically, India and the UAE, I think, have great trade ties that go back many generations. Of course, there's a lot of indigenous Indians and subcontinental populous people that obviously have an affinity with this region and live here in this region. And I think it's just the beginning of many opportunities that can come out. And thanks to this sort of conference and this wonderful conclave, I think it's just the beginning of the sort of opportunities that can arise through cross-fertilization of people's business ideas and activities of coming together and actually sharing their experiences and their opportunities together.
Definitely. So India Leadership Council, which is an initiative of the Times of India, this Economic Times Group, it's very critical and important. They are bringing a lot of the successful business leaders. Like today, we've been hearing Mr. Harsh Mariwala. He's one of the stalwart and he has created a big business empire, and he was here. So it is actually encouraging the new entrepreneurs, the business environment, and with this type of a platform, when the interaction among the businessmen of both the countries and the international community happens, it actually, this platform increases the confidence, the trust, provides them an opportunity to understand and then to execute the transactions.